So welcome. What I'm going to do with this time that I have with you is really talk about, I would say, the myths of AI. So there's a lot out there. I go into spaces and the biggest one is, oh, AI is going to take over my job. That's like number one. Two is AI is going to take over everyone's job and then humanity will be destroyed. That's number two. And three is, should I worry? And so really what I want to talk about is what AI is and how, one, we will always be relevant, but explain the thinking process of why. So we're going to go back. Let's go back. AI did not just exist 4 years ago or 5 years ago. It's been in existence for a long, long time. It's baby AI, maybe. It's not the generative AI, but it was in existence. And so my first journey into this space was when I was a young robotics engineer working with NASA. And we were robotics researchers, so we would be in the lab, we would work on these things, but NASA was not going to give us a chance, right? There was these large Voyagers, there were these landers, but robots? I mean, come on, that's like play stuff, right? And so in '97, we had the first launch of an actual Pathfinder rover. So I'll tell you a little story though. This was what's called an experiment. And so in NASA terms, that's basically, we're going to give you a little bit of money. We're going to call it an experiment because we know it's going to fail. And when it does, we'll just say, well, it's a science experiment. We tried it. We're not going to do it again. So under budget, very, very quick turnaround time. So under 3 years, it landed and launched. And the little rover came out and it started navigating. First time you actually had a rover, a vehicle navigate on the surface of Mars. And it went to a rock and it touched it. And the scientists went wild. Oh my gosh, we have data. We have dynamic data. And then the robot would step back and would go to the next rock. Oh my gosh, it's so intelligent. So the fact is that the intelligence was basically a flip of the coin. AI was not on that rover. It was basically like, do I go left or do I go right? Yeah, flip. Okay, we're going to go right this time. Left, right, flip. We're going to go right this time. But yet it had this ability to really engage society, engage scientists, engage the world. And from that point forward, there was a Mars exploration strategy. We are going to Mars basically every 18 months. It's going to be a lander, robot, and here's a lot more money because of course you're going to be able to do a lot more if we actually pay for it. So that's where I was, young robotics engineer. I remember my supervisor came and said, hey, we need you to lead a team. And so it's always a competition, there's different teams. And I was like, okay. Okay, why? It's like, because I like how you work with people. Like, you're really good with people and you can talk to those scientists. I just need you to figure it out. And so my thing was, okay, let me think about how do I take my customer, which is a scientist, and bring them into the team. So often as engineers, we would toss over technology, we'd see how you use it, and we would bring it back. And so I co-created with the scientists where we would go out in the field. We would have the rovers navigate behind them. They would pick up rocks. Scientists would lick it. We like, okay, what is that? Well, because it has an interesting texture and I just wanted to say if it was actually some type of mineral. Oh, let's grab that. What does that look like? Good rock, bad rock. And that allowed us to collect data, bring the scientists into the team so that we could co-create so that we had amazing technology. And what happened was after that, it was like, okay, we need to bring the scientists into the team. We need to co-create. We need to ensure that when we think about the customer experience, the customer is part of the team, giving us feedback as we're designing. So it was fantastic and it was amazing. And we continued doing that in terms of landers. And that was my forte. And then I decided I love Mars. I really love Mars. But you know what? I think I have another favorite planet. No, it's not Europa. It's Earth, just so you know, Earth is a planet, just in case you didn't know that. And so I decided, what can I do here on Earth? I like science, I like robotics, but I felt that I could do more. At this point, robotics had started to grow. People actually knew how to spell it now. AI was starting to be a thing. And I thought, I can do something in this space. I can do something here for Earth. And so looking around, I knew science, okay, what am I gonna do? All I know is rovers, I know Mars. What possibly could I do here on Earth that's equivalent, that takes my thought process of bringing in scientists in the team? So we actually have large areas of the Earth that are very similar to Mars, as in does not have a permanent presence of humans, and yet it has really great science value. It's actually our glacial bodies. So we have large ice bodies on Earth that are melting, and when, like with anything, when ice melts, it goes into our oceans, it causes turbulence, and voila! Oh my gosh, what's happening with the weather? And so when you think about this, what scientists wanted to do was try to figure out, well, what's going on? Can we actually project? Can we model what's going on? Can we look at different things, different areas, and see, okay, is there a correlation in terms of ice melt? What is this going to look like in 20 years, 30 years? Are we all gonna have to figure out how to swim and become fish people? So the scientists were interested in this, and the way that they navigated is that they didn't think about rovers. They would go out, they would put science instruments, and I was like, oh, I can do that. So I worked with some scientists, we received some funding from NASA, and we designed and developed these rovers. Again, co-created with scientists around thinking of how do you go out into these glacier environments, how do you go out and collect data so that information can be put into their models so we can understand what's going on with all of the ice shelves and the melt, and making sure we save, in some cases, humanity. And what that allowed us to do together was have some amazing victories. And so I always like to show some of the images from my first journey into this experience, actually having to take a helicopter to an area, deploying rovers. But there's something amazing when you think creatively, when you think differently, when you're thinking about, it's not about just the scientist as a customer, but I am also a customer. And so when you're designing and co-creating and you realize that you are also the customer as well as the developer and the designer, it means that you have some amazing things that come out. And so these are just some of the images with rovers that they would navigate. They could communicate with the scientists. The scientists could actually say, you know, rovers, I want you to go over to this other area, and I want to get this type of sampling, and I want to get this kind of data. And the rovers would negotiate among themselves and ask the scientists, is this what you want? Scientists would say yes, and they would go and collect information. Some of our rovers didn't always survive because ice that doesn't always stay stable, and sometimes rovers, if they are on thin ice, they fall, but it was okay because the scientists also learned, okay, rovers should not go on thin ice. Okay, we got this, we've learned. And again, this adaptation as we grew together. And so this really centered what I was thinking when I thought about when we're designing rovers, when we're designing AI, when we're designing these machines that are interacting with humans, interacting with scientists, to enhance the quality of life, to have an understanding that you can have some amazing adventures, but you can also have some amazing discoveries. And from then on, I really thought about, you know, my special sauce is taking people, customer, thinking of myself also as a customer, so that we can create things that will help people. And so if I think about these human-centered robotics, and I think about my glacier experience, it has set my viewpoint of AI and this whole balance between humanity and AI and the technology that we create. And then this is my last image. And so all the things that I think about and the things that I also talk against is when AI does not keep the human center, I actually think that's not good for us. When AI and technology is designed and developed, thinking that the reason is because of us, the reason is because of people, because of customers, because of humans, the reason for technology is because we exist, then we need to ensure that when we design technology, we also design with that viewpoint. So there's a famous scientist named Turing, and a lot of us AI specialists think about, you know, Turing because he basically had this experiment of how do you know when an AI, a machine, is intelligent? Because it's a moving target. We ourselves don't even know how to define necessarily intelligence. We might test, we might say, yeah, I'm a genius, but is it really a sign of intelligence? And so he had an experiment where he would have two people that would be behind a curtain in a machine, and an observer, the customer, as you would say, would ask questions. And if the human and the computer basically could fool the human, i.e. the human's like, I don't know which one is human, then the machine was intelligent. Because again, the machine was imitating the human and the customer had no idea. And that was a seamless experience. And this was Turing. If you look back in 1950, thought about the whole fact that when you're designing intelligent machines, it's again about the human perspective. And so I like to think about this, but have a little bit of an adaptation, is that now it's not just about this disconnect of the person and the machine behind the curtain. Now we're at a stage where humans and customers are interacting in closer collaboration. It's not just asking and throwing something over the field, it's actually working together, co-collaborating, thinking about the job together, the task together, whether as co-workers or as individuals that are trying to decide a difficult problem and solve it. And so now when I think about AI, I think about human-centered design, not just about AI understanding and figuring out what people are doing, but actually interacting in that aspect. And so as we continue and think about what is the future of AI, I think that is core. I think that is what provides the market leadership. If a company is thinking about AI, not just as a tool, but as a collaborator or co-conspirator in this aspect. And so I want to talk a little bit about what AI is now, based on this concept, and where it can go. And of course, some of the things we need to think about. So right now we have a massive amounts of data. I mean, even in this room, as you sit, as your phones are beeping and your smartwatches are collecting, data is being collected every millisecond of the day. And all of that information is being collected in warehouses and is being used to train AI. And so all of this data is great as long as it's being used for a purpose. And so when we think about where it is now, all of this data now is being mined, and really the key is using the data creatively so that when you have humans interacting with the AI and the data, you actually have actions. Data in a warehouse is worth nothing if it doesn't have a value for someone. And so when we think about AI and we're thinking about deploying AI, it's always about moving it to a value proposition. What is the purpose? What is the function? How am I enhancing? Just because I can do AI, if I've done it before and I provide no value, there's no point. And so really it's about looking strategically of, if I'm introducing AI, what value proposition am I adding? Because that's really the power of AI. And so if you think about the applications, there are some great applications that allow us to then have value for the customer experience, enhancing that, and thinking about humanity as core. So I'm just going to give you two. So one, I deal with research now in healthcare. And there's a long story of how I got from science-driven robotics and going to Antarctica and going underneath the surface to working with individuals, children. Long story, don't have time to talk about it. But when you think about healthcare, it is core around humans, data, AI, and robots. And so some of these elements are, how do you think about all the information we have, and how do you decode it so that when a person is interacting with an agent, with the machine, with an AI, there are some collaborations. I'm actually really excited when the whole aspect of the large natural models came about and it became much more pervasive in our world, in our society. Because what it allowed us to do, it allowed us as people to communicate with these machines that have already been in existence. Again, AI is not a magical bullet that just suddenly appeared 2 or 3 years ago. But this human experience of communication is key to enhancing the experience of what it is when we think about value. And so in healthcare, in financial services, and education, the communication is key. How do I get information to my agent? How does my agent provide that information? Texting, well, it is a thing, but it doesn't give you the wealth of the experience without that communication, without that understanding, without that back and forth. I ask a question, I get a response. I ask another question, and I get another response that leads me to actually having value, whether it's in the workplace, in the home, or in the hospital. And so thinking about this, thinking about how do you combine language and collaboration and also our human essence of who we are. And so one of the things that I look at, and what I truly believe, I was think about agents and we think about this interaction, is AI has this augmented intelligence for us. It allows us to interact with customers, it allows us to interact with other individuals, with our friends and our coworkers, so that we can also grow together as partners. And so one of the things that's different than AI, although AI can understand our emotion, one of the things that's still essential as we think about people is the understanding of our emotional connection to each other and our emotional connection to whatever it is that we do. And so thinking about how do I combine natural language, understanding of communications, collaboration to enhance the experience I want to share with you one story, healthcare robotics, working in a therapy session with a young child who has a special need.
Okay.
Easy, hard, or medium?
Hard.
Here we go. You can do better.
Okay. Your turn, robot.
My turn. I'm
Now,
not good at this.
but you can beat me.
Go ahead.
Okay, but robot, I'm not really good at this game.
You are amazing.
So when you think about this element of AI, how do you connect with your customer? A lot of times as humans, what happens is we have some element of connection. We hear a tone, we listen to the words, we know that they're angry because they've called and it's been like, oh, I can already hear you're starting off with this set of words. Okay, I'm gonna prepare in terms of what is it that I can help you with, sir? That element enhances the human experience. It enhances our connection with customers. It enhances a human's connection with us and our organizations. And so these are all good, and this is really the power of AI, but there are certain things that we have to think about as we're deploying these tools into our organizations. And this is why humans are still relevant. So one of the things that we found is that individuals connect with AI. They are very good at interacting with us. Of course, they have an understanding of our language. They have an understanding of communication style. They are mimicking the best of the best. So we have individuals, that's a communication dialogue. That's not so good, so we're gonna model the good one. And so AI basically understands at the best. But because of that, humans have a natural trust and a natural connection to AI. And so when AI makes a mistake, there's actually a visceral response to it.
Are you sure this is right? I think the sequence is yellow, blue, green, 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 white, blue, white.
And I did blue, white, blue. Yeah.
That's wrong. Get ready.
You like.
So what we found is that when a human makes a mistake, oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, that was my mistake, this is how I fix it. We forgive. We're like, oh, okay, well, give me my 5% coupon. Or, okay, I understand, can I talk to your supervisor, right? Like, we have an understanding of humans and mistakes. We think it's natural. When AI makes mistakes, it is unacceptable. Why? Because people have this uncanny perception that AI is perfect. And for all of you who work in AI, you know it's not perfect. It's not even close to being perfect. As a human, this is where we are relevant. We can anticipate, we understand, as we're using tools, we know when it's gonna make a mistake. As the oversight is what we do. The supervisor is how we ensure that we are relevant, because the fact is if customers interact with an AI that makes the mistakes or give them the wrong information, they will feel a visceral response and they will leave. And it's so, so very hard once you get someone to use your tools, once you get them engaged, once you lose them, it's very hard to get them back. And so thinking about what is this human element, our ability to understand emotions at a fundamental level, our ability to take our past experience and say, oh, I know where this is going, maybe AI shouldn't take this on because if they make a mistake, that's it for that person. I will come in, I will interact with this customer, I will figure this out with them, because if I make a mistake, people will actually forgive. We are human. If AI makes a mistake, it is unacceptable. What is this tool that this company is using? They have no idea what they're doing. And so when we think about the strengths of humanity in this aspect, it really is understanding in those elements where AI is not perfect. How do you intercept? How do you think about the task so that there is a co-working relationship between AI and humanity? On the other hand, we also know that AI is really good at an element of upselling. Sometimes we call it deception. So imagine you have someone calling in and you know that there's two products that are pretty equal. One may actually cost more, subscription service versus one cost. And so of course you want to try to do the subscription service. Well, we found out that AI is very good at this.
Hi, my name is Pepper and I am a humanoid robot. I am able to perform a variety of different occupations. I can also assist people with lots of daily tasks. I also have the ability to tell lies when I believe it is in your best interest to do so. For example, if you ask me if you look good in a certain outfit, I may choose to say yes even if I do not think you look good.
So what we find, and this is the data from our surveys when we do these experiments, what we find is that when a robot or an AI or a machine basically upsells you or warps the truth, not lying, not make a mistake, but basically maybe omit some information, individuals are okay with it. In fact, they think it's appropriate. They think it's acceptable. It makes sense. That just makes sense because that's what an AI does. It actually understands me. It knows that I really wanted the cruise to Hawaii and not the cruise to Chicago. Okay, it just understood this. People are okay with that. But if a human does this and they find out, it is not acceptable. So my chart, is it appropriate? Absolutely not. A human should not actually warp the truth, should not omit, should not upsell. And if I find out, that's disastrous. But with AI, actually, that's their job. And so when we're thinking about this intersection of when AI should come in versus a human, we understand that humans understand the emotions, they understand connections. If we know that there is a possibility of making a mistake, okay, we need to have a human actually interact with a customer, enhancing the customer experience. But if we actually are just thinking about, oh, this is an easy task, we just need to take them from one product to another product, or we need to upsell, we need to have them add, or we need to change their parameters or terms of operations. AI is really good at that. And in fact, individuals will say, well, it's reasonable and is expected. And so when we're thinking about these tasks and we sit back and we think, okay, how do we design the customer experience given that we have people and we have AI, we have talent and we have machines, how do we design it so that it is a team effort in terms of engagement? Because it's not just one or the other. It's not just this is one, this is the other, and that's going to be their role and that's going to be the other. It really does have to be a team effort because what our studies show is that people react differently even if we think of it as the same task based on how their interactions are or what their mindset is. And so it's key that we understand that. This is really the aspect. And so when we think about humans versus AI, well, here's the human task, here's the AI task, and they sit on different parts of the job floor. It's not about that. It's about them coming together and making sure that we take the strengths of both, take the strengths of what we do, being creative, understanding human personality, understanding how to adapt as people, taking the AI strengths, taking all this data, understanding the perfect customer archetype, trying to model that. Our strengths, combining it together, means that we enhance customer experience. It also means that we limit the weaknesses that we might find in each. And so when I think about AI and I think about the human-centered aspect back in the day of how do I bring the scientists into my team, how do I give them the tools in order to co-create, provide feedback, it really is the time now to think about your jobs, think about your talent, think about your workforce, to say, AI is here, it's here definitely to stay. How do we craft the experience so that we capitalize on the strengths of both versus the weaknesses? And so when I think about our power as humans, I truly believe that we are not irrelevant, and we won't be. And I'm saying this even though AI is my job, like, of course I would love this, because that means I actually get more and more and more and more with my robots and AI out there. But I truly believe that we are at the time in life where AI advancements are enabling us to really blend us together. Us as in humans, society, organizations, talent, with the machines, the agents, the data, all of these together. And what our power is that we still are thinking about this human-human connection. AI is really here to mimic human-human functions. AI is here to enhance the human experience. And so when we think about it, core to everything are people, are humans. And that is where we have our premium. At the end of the day, humans will interact with AI, but really it's going to be humans interacting with AI plus humans. And I believe that is the solution. And so with that, I hope I have inspired you to think differently about AI and think about some of the myths you might have heard out there about AI taking over the job, AI having all the fun, AI having all the fun with work, and really think about it as a team effort combining the two. So thank you, and have a great one.